and welcome to Boom Goddess Radio. I am Jennifer Davis Paige, your host, and today we are featuring the history of Juneteenth. We are going to have a wonderful discussion with three amazing historians, Mr. Larry Starks,
Hello.
Valerie Stanley, and Ada Red Austin. Can you all hear me fairly well?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Well, again, I welcome you. Larry, I'd like to start with you if you don't mind.
Okay.
Can you tell me your role, what your role has been in the observance of Juneteenth in Tucson, and for how long?
Well, since I'm a native Tucsonan, my date goes back long time ago when I remember my brothers playing in the band back at the festivals on A Mountain. So it was a glorious event. We'd all gather either at A Mountain, and then it moved to Kennedy Park. There were live bands all day long, food vendors all day. You know, you can get any kind of food you wanted. The vendors selling items and different things like that. Again, since I was probably seven years old, I can remember going to the festivals every year in Tucson. And the reason I'm here now, probably as a part of the Juneteenth Board Celebration Committee, is my brother who passed away, Bernie Starks, he was on the board. So I just came in to kind of help that keep moving forward with the family.
Excellent. You want to talk a little bit about your brother and his participation in the program, and was he one of the ones originally that started it?
He wasn't one of the original charter members, but he's been on the board since I can remember. Val can probably testify how long it was, but ever since I can remember, my brother's been a part of the Juneteenth committee. Tucson was a really big deal for him, for all of our family, because we're from here. Anything celebrating Tucson and its history has been big in our family, and Juneteenth is one of those things that brings together Tucson as a collective. At least once a year, like the MLK, where African Americans and others can come together and just celebrate each other with food, dance, song, friendship, and things of that sort. So it's been a part of my family, him, since forever.
I know that with a conversation that I had with Valerie, she tells me, of course, because of COVID, we couldn't do anything last year. And let's talk about what all of you did in 19 and what you're looking to do in 22 to bring the festival back to its full wonder.
Is that for any one of us to answer?
Yes, go ahead, Ada, jump in.
Oh, well, I want to jump in and say I'm a native as well. And so I always took part in Juneteenth here in the community. But what was it? I'd say about a couple of years ago. Yes, we had Juneteenth at the TCC, which was amazing. And we had all kinds of vendors. Is this the information that you want?
Absolutely. I just want you to tell the story and the history.
Right. Well, the history of what we did. And we had about 70 vendors. We had food trucks. We had talent. And oh gosh, help me, Ms. Valerie, if I forget something. But it just, the community came together, as well as, other folks of other colors and, races and a lot of, and it was very informative. And Miss Valerie can tell you about the gentleman that came from Chicago, who brought history. He brought books and, oh my gosh, posters from back during the time, I guess, during slavery, just all kinds of material of history, from even some elementary books to sports and oh gosh, and live music. And we had, I believe we had some fraternities and sororities that took part. And before that, we had a fundraiser, which was a concert that me and my band, Ada Red Austin and Band, performed at for Juneteenth.
You want to talk a little bit about the concert and what kind of music you and your band did at Juneteenth?
Well, a year ago, it was in February. So I put two elements together, romance and history, Black history. And so in one segment of the concert, I shared about the history of Juneteenth. And I just talked about what it was all about and how it started. And, you know, the slaves were not told of the Emancipation Proclamation. And I shared about that and how it had gone into effect. And so the slaves didn't know this. And so I shared that. And when they did find out, they began to celebrate as time went on. But I told about that. And then I talked about what was happening today with George Floyd and Eric Garner and Rashard Brooks and Michael Brown, and just talked about modern day lynching. So from there, I sang Strange Fruit, which is a story of lynching that Billie Holiday sang. And so I did some songs, Everything Must Change. So that was the concert, and I did some jazz. I did Billie Holiday. I did some old 70s, like the Stylistics, and, you know, so that's what we contributed.
And is that sounds like it was an amazing part of the event. Is that something you're going to repeat next year?
I would love to, but so I don't know. And if, and I have produced my own show too. So I would love to do another concert, which is, I plan on it. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like this is, one of the questions I had to ask was how do we best celebrate Juneteenth, and what were your suggestions? But this sounds like, coming to the park and all, and being together and celebrating it is to the way to go. Larry,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any suggestions about the best way to celebrate Juneteenth besides what Ada was talking about?
Yeah, I think one is really about education, not just, during June. It's about educating throughout the year.
Yes.
And embracing not just the churches and the schools and others, but, understanding that Juneteenth is a part of our history year round. And we should be able to celebrate it, not just in Black History Month, not just in June, but all year long. And I'll be remiss to say, back when Juneteenth first started here in Tucson, it was a 3-day event. It wasn't just one day. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
So you had different things going on different days. On Fridays, you had live bands, R&B, funk, rappers, whoever's on there Friday. Then Saturday, you had an all-day event where Friday was like in the evening. Saturday, you were at the park all day long. You could be there from 9 o'clock in the morning till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. If you wanted to, you could go in, get your food, go home, and come back. And then Sunday was really dedicated towards spirituality, and the churches and the choirs and preachers and others will come out on Sunday. If you wanted to get, it wasn't about at that time what church you went to or anything else like that. It was a community where all the churches, all the pastors would get together. So it's really what I would like to see, a celebration of us all year long, understanding Juneteenth, and then that day a culmination of everything we've done all year to come together on day to say, here's the fruit of our labor, and here's
Yeah.
what we've done.
As Valerie, as we're all elders in the community, can you tell me if our kids now that are in school, are they being taught about Juneteenth in their history classes? And do they learn more through your organization than they do in the schoolroom? Valerie, can you hear me?
I don't believe that there's anything being taught in the schools as far as, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're
Yeah.
breaking up a little bit, but go ahead, continue.
I don't believe that there was anything taught in the schools as far as Juneteenth is concerned. So definitely they learn more at the festival than they would in school.
Was there an educational component besides the program? I mean, was there an educational component to the festival where kids could sit and ask questions about Juneteenth with the elders? And is that
Yes, we had a lot of different components to the Juneteenth with the different informational booths that we had during the day. So there was a lot of information. The Buffalo Soldiers were there, so they got to tell their story and display all of their wares from the Buffalo Soldier museum. And then we had different booths with University of Arizona talking about the health component of Juneteenth and Blacks in America and our health. And then we had
Arts as well.
different organizations that had books that were conducive to Juneteenth and what happened in the past that the kids don't really learn about. And as Ada said, we had the arts as well. Arbia Williams performed her African tribute to Juneteenth. We had song, poetry, all that.
And Sadie's, art. She had shared. She's an artist, painter.
She did an oral history at the last Juneteenth festival with people in the neighborhoods in an old neighborhood, Sugar Hill, that she had interviewed about their history, their past and their history, and that led up to with Juneteenth.
Were there any murals? Did Sadie do any murals, or did any of the artists do any murals on Juneteenth for that occasion?
I'm not sure if there were any murals.
Yeah, the only mural, she has over on Linden, down Linden Street. She's slowly putting murals out in the community on the north side. I don't know anywhere else. Larry and Miss Valerie might know. But, I wanted to just say too, that when I'm a retired teacher, and I was the only Black teacher at my school. And of course, we, come February, I would put, I don't know if you all remember the African posters that were in the Ebony magazine, and it had all the African kings and queens. I would, by Budweiser, and I would cut the Budweiser signs and put them out by the cafeteria area and put, African royalty. But I made a point as a teacher, and the whole school would be involved with Black history. I made a point to, I went a little bit further than what the curriculum called for when it came to our history, my history. I made sure they got it. It just all depends on teachers And, you know, I had to give information to other teachers and say, please share, so that our students had not a clue about civil rights and slavery.
We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, Ada, we'll talk more about what you think we need to do to educate our kids about all of this Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Boom Goddess Radio. This is Jennifer Davis Paige, your host, and we're going to have some wonderful conversations with three amazing guests. We've got Ada Red Austin joining us, Valerie Stanley, and Larry Starks. This is a question for all three of you. Can you tell us, how do we make sure that the traditions of Juneteenth are kept alive in this Zoom generation? How do you think we can best do that? And that's a question for all three of you. Ada, do you want to start, since you ended the last segment with things being taught in the classroom?
Well, you know, we do have, I believe, an African American Studies department. That would help, as well as coming together, even maybe some of the retired community, as myself, and bring about ideas that what we used to do. I was with Black Studies back in 1984, and you know, we went throughout the schools, and I was a resource teacher, and there was a few of us, and we went to different schools. Not only did we teach English as a second dialect, but we also taught history, Black history. And as time went on, things changed for some odd reason, and it just needs to take the community to come together and say, okay, how can we reach our children again? Because I felt what we had was successful, but that was years ago. I even went into the schools with Barbia Williams Dance Company. I used to dance with her, and we'd go to the junior highs and elementaries, and not only just dance, but we would teach as we were performing. So, and that has stopped. Just getting into the schools, the elementary schools, and having assemblies. So much has changed in for what I know, TUSD. It just seems like so much has changed. So,
what do you think we can do, Larry? You can answer this question if you will. What do you think we can do to bring it back into the schools and teach our youngsters the history of it all?
Well, I think one is, again, getting back to the major school organizations, TUSD, Sunnyside, Vail, whatever it might be.
yeah.
Saying this is not just a, Black History Month conversation we need to have. And having those programs, like Ada said, that are in the school to teach, the education throughout the school year. The other untapped resource we need to look at is the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, where we have younger, people who are here, they're coming and going, but a lot of our students don't know that if they're coming from out of town, maybe they're coming from the Midwest or other places, they've never heard about Juneteenth. So we need to do a better job of reaching those students who are coming here at the university and Pima College to say, here's what we have to teach you. What we also need to do a better job of is, we have a lot of things going on in Tucson in the African American community. A lot of people don't realize that because we're really fragmented, because we're so spread out. You know, we have the IMA, we have, you know, Juneteenth, Dunbar, NAACP. A lot of things are going on, but we need to do a better job of supporting one another. And I'm gonna say that because that's true. We can't worry about who gets the accolades. We can't worry about who gets the, you know, the attaboys, whatever it might be. We need to come together and say, how can we as a community join together to say, we're going to help you with your event, you're going to help us with our event, because that makes our whole community a lot better, not just one thing going on in one place or another, but we can then, the kids will see if their parents are doing things, we bring the kids out, we're in the schools, we can go to schools and do these kind of conversations with kids so that they're then having a conversation even with their parents. Say, hey, mom and dad, I hear there's a Juneteenth coming up in June. They're not in school. So if they're reminding their parents that things are coming up, they're more than likely, parents are like, oh, okay, well, if my kids want to go, then I best find a way for them to get there. So it's really just an education on a whole lot of different levels. It's not just one, but our community really as a whole, again, because we're so spread out in Tucson, being way up north, being way out east, we really have to find a way to come back together.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a wonderful platform here with Boom Goddess Radio and KXCI and Radio Phoenix and the Pima Community College YouTube channel. So this is good information that they will have, and hopefully we'll hear it, and a group can come together to make that happen, so that when we have this conversation this time next year, we'll have some answers, you
Right.
know, and things that have been accomplished as a result of the three of you putting it out there.
And the good thing this year is Pima Community College is actually going to be promoting our live stream. So that's a big thing for us to have them as a community standard for Pima College, because a lot of our African American kids, they go through there. And even just not just African American kids, but kids in general that are going through there and want to know and understand about the community. So them live streaming for us and doing our virtual event is going to be really big for us, I believe.
I have a question that I asked on one of my previous interview shows, and I'm going to ask you because I want to get some, whether it's the same answer or different answers. Can you tell me who named Juneteenth?
Yeah, Juneteenth was named actually by the day that it was celebrated, and when the General Granger came to give them the proclamation, was it General Order number 3, was in June 19th of 1865. So
Right.
that's where the name Juneteenth came from, because of the 10th, whether it's the 16th, 17th, 18th, or 19th, it was the Juneteenth. So that's where the actually came from.
Who named it? I you know, when I did my little research, they said the research says that, you know, research is often wrong. Research says that President Abraham Lincoln named it Juneteenth. What do you
My
I don't
information,
believe it was.
it was first called Freedom Day. That's you know what the slaves in Galveston called it. But you know, I don't know who called it Juneteenth. That's a good question. Do you know, Miss Valerie?
No, I don't, but I don't believe it was the president.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it was just one of those things where it was a celebration, and when did it happen? When did it occur? It's in June 19th. And
Yeah.
that just kind of became an essence of, you know, Juneteenth. I mean, I celebrated Juneteenth in Texas one year. My brother was going to a McMurray College in Texas, and they celebrate for a whole week in Texas. I mean, it's a big event. It's not, you know, it's not small at all. They have parades and, you know, everything else that goes on down to Texas. So.
Did any of you, can any of you explain to me the red, black, and green colors of the flag? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the research that I've done, basically the Juneteenth flag is not red, black, and green. The Juneteenth flag is actually red, white, and blue, like the United States of America flag, only it has a star in the middle. And the star burst is significant of the freedom of slaves. And the red, white, and blue is because we are all Americans, even though we were slaves.
Now, again, this research that I do that may or may not be accurate, can you tell me why I hear red when we're talking about traditional foods and colors that are worn are red foods or red clothes based on the blood that was shed during slavery? Had any of you ever heard of that story?
I mean,
No, that was the first I heard of it was when you were talking about it earlier today.
Okay.
I'd never heard of it.
Ada, Larry, have you heard about red being the color of Juneteenth and why?
I've heard just being the red, black, and green flag of when, growing up with my older brothers, one of them being in the Panthers. Red is for the blood of the people, black is for the color, and green is for the land. So that's what, when I was younger, I was told as far as red, black, and green, the significance of it being on the Juneteenth flag, that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, me too, with what Larry's saying.
What about, we're going to have a show next week on, I'm going to have a chef on talking about the traditional foods of Juneteenth. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that and what you know about the foods of traditional rich foods of Juneteenth?
Go ahead, Valerie.
I don't know of any traditional foods of Juneteenth. I only imagine that because it was in the 1800s that they ate the foods that people ate back then because they had nothing. So talking about pig feet and collard greens and black-eyed peas and cornbread.
Cornbread. Mm-hmm.
Well, according to my research, which is very wrong, it seems that we've got, okay, the red foods were red velvet cake is supposed to be a traditional, and strawberry pie.
Oh.
Red fruit drink, and hot links.
Oh, really?
Now that my research is not working out so much for me right now, but this is what I've read. So we got hot links, and we've got all kinds of red desserts and red drinks, and of course greens and macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, I've heard about red Kool-Aid, but that's about the only traditional thing I've heard. As far as the foods are concerned, I'm not sure, but I did hear about red Kool-Aid being drank after celebrations.
Well, I'll let you know when we air the one on food, and the chef is going to put up a recipe so we can all make some delicious desserts. Okay. We've got about 2 minutes.
Jennifer, maybe those were the traditions in Texas. So we probably need to do some research on the traditions in Texas, since that's where Juneteenth originated.
Okay.
I don't know that they bought the recipes and everything with them when they came to Tucson. So maybe that's why we don't know about them.
Okay, well.
When you celebration, I'm just, it's like I see barbecue ribs and and the greens and the corn, but
well, these are all of our favorite things, so maybe that's why you wanted it to be one of the favorites.
I'm sure they use, doing Texas now, and here, but I never heard what the Juneteenth foods were.
Well, that would be interesting because I also have a food show, and I interview African-American chefs around Arizona, and it's called Culinary Travels. And so I'm going to address that on that show so that we can all learn what the traditional foods are for Juneteenth.
That'd be good. And I have not from that, Miss Valerie. So I will talk to you later.
Hey, I want to thank you all, the three of you, for joining me today and giving the Boom Goddess listeners some wonderful information about Juneteenth. And I so appreciate you sharing your stories. We want to thank all of our Boom Goddess listeners for tuning in. And again, we'll see you on the radio next week. This is Jennifer signing off.